Some investors seem like they can see the future. They sell stocks just before they fall. They change positions before a crisis hits. And they've already bought in before opportunities explode. But how? Is it just luck? Or are they inside that secret system we call the black box? Today I'm going to show you 5 dangerous tools investors guard like a secret. But these aren't ordinary tools. These combine manipulation, intelligence, and sometimes data that push the boundaries of ethics. So, if you're not checking these tools before investing, your competitors may already be far ahead of you. But I won't jump into the list just yet, because first I want to show you something. Last year, a few members of parliament sold a major tech stock. Just a few weeks later, the same company crashed due to a major lawsuit. How did they know? Or take a fund manager. As if receiving insider information, they poured millions into a completely overlooked sector. 6 months later, that sector became the star of the stock market. Was it possible to predict this? The answer, yes, but not for everyone. Some tools show you more than just prices. They reveal power plays, what's happening at the intersection of media and money, which companies politicians support, and which funds quietly shift positions. But to access these, you need to know the right door. And now I'll open that door for you. Have you ever wondered why some investors change their positions before a crisis? How is it that they sell all their shares just 48 hours before a stock crashes? While you're still reading the news, why have they already made their move? This isn't intuition. This isn't coincidence. This is definitely not luck. This is access to a different stream of information. But this information isn't broadcast on television. It doesn't trend on Twitter. It reaches only specific people from specific sources. And today, I'll show you one of those sources. But first, I want you to do something. Think about all the investment news sources around you. Do they tell you about the present of the market or its future? Now imagine a source that seems like it's selling fear, but actually gives warnings before disasters. Seems like a conspiracy, but gets confirmed by mainstream media weeks later. And sometimes leaks information so disturbing that not just shareholders, but entire governments get nervous. The name of this place is Hedge, but don't you dare think of it as a regular news site, because this place functions like the dark web of finance. Hedge doesn't shine like CNBC, doesn't act neutral like Bloomberg, and certainly doesn't talk in sanitized language like Reuters. It doesn't show you Wall Street's showroom, it shows you the basement. Why is a bank collapsing? What is the real purpose behind the Fed's interest rate decisions? Which country is silently preparing for a financial bomb? Everyone starts talking about these questions days later, but Hedge whispers them in advance. Once you start following this site, mainstream media will feel like a toy. You'll begin telling yourself, I've known nothing until now. The real truths of the market have never been told to me. And that's the moment you stop feeling alone while investing, because now you have your own black box, and its name is Hedge. The site's writing style is unlike anything you're used to. There you don't find simple news. You find crisis scenarios written like deep analysis. Sometimes at the end of an article it says, if this happens, this sector could collapse like a row of dominoes. And 2 weeks later, that sector really does collapse. Hedge is not a news source. It's more like a sixth sense. But this sixth sense is a cold-blooded panic powered by statistics, data, and analysis. But what if the thing that affects investments isn't just the economy? What if the real market direction is determined in the back room of a legislative bill quietly signed into law? Or what if the rise of a giant company is based on a secret agreement never revealed to the public? Let me ask you, how much do you factor in politics when making financial decisions? Elections, wars, changes in laws. Are these just news headlines? Or are they the real drivers of the market? The answer to this question is often hidden not in charts or price action, but in documents. However, those documents are not always publicly accessible. Or more precisely, they're not always published in a way everyone can read them. There are certain documents that newspapers never headline, that government agencies never publicly explain, but they ignite financial waves worth millions of dollars. And there's a place that reveals those documents, that exposes those silent but shocking stories. The Intercept. The Intercept is not your typical news platform. It's not a media site. It's the leak laboratory of the modern era. Among its founders are journalists who worked alongside Edward Snowden. Yes, that's Snowden, the man who leaked American intelligence documents and shook the world. And now those same people are here, inside The Intercept. The articles published here can often determine the fate of a company. And some investors read those documents before they read the stock ticker. Which tech company quietly received a government contract? Which bill benefits or harms which sectors? Political ties behind major hedge funds, military shipments to crisis regions and their effects on energy prices. Classified documents, whistleblower files, and political investment relationships. While mainstream media tells you everything is transparent, The Intercept tells you, no, you just haven't been told. And as an investor, this is your awakening, because you finally realize the market is shaped not just by numbers, but by decisions. And those decisions are often made long before we ever hear about them. Once you start reading The Intercept, your investment decisions take on a more political tone, because you're no longer just thinking, what stocks should I buy? Now you're also asking, why was this decision made now? Who made a deal with whom? And that's when you begin to see the invisible web behind the market. The stock exchange stops being just about economics. It becomes a geopolitical chessboard. The Intercept doesn't just give you information, it shows you the backstage of the game. Have you ever wondered why some sectors never seem to lose? The economy crashes, but they stay standing. Scandals erupt, but they get stronger. Their stocks are about to fall, but suddenly they start to rise. How? The answer is simple, because they don't just have investors, they have protectors inside the government, in the depths of politics, and sometimes in the very hands that write the laws. Now I'm going to show you something very simple, yet extremely striking. You can see which companies a member of Congress has invested in, or which fund donated to whom just before a bill passed, all on one single website. And yes, it's legal, but here's the irony. The truth is right in front of us, but no one reads it. That's why most people don't win. OpenSecrets.org is a massive public database that records and publishes the full relationship between American politics and money. What you'll see here is not news. It's the exposure of the game played between corporations, lobbyists, and politicians. Which sector donated how much to which candidate? After a bill passed, which company's stock went up? Who financed the oil lobby's campaign? Which pharmaceutical company funneled how much into which healthcare reform? It's all here, name by name, number by number, with solid evidence. Until now, you thought you were investing alone, but you weren't. You just didn't know the rules of the game the other players were using. Open Secrets reveals those rules. But a warning, this site might disturb you, because sometimes you'll discover the hidden partners of brands you love. You'll see how much money companies that sell you hope are funneling into certain campaigns. And you might lose your faith in the fairness of the game, but don't, because now you have a map in your hands. Open Secrets isn't just for understanding the game, it's for seeing the next move before it happens on the chessboard. If you're investing without checking this site first, your competitors are already several steps ahead, because they're not just investing in stocks, they may be investing in the people who write the laws behind those stocks. And now, it's your turn to start recognizing those people. Have you ever wondered how some stocks suddenly start rising, yet there's no news, no announcement, no explanation? Everyone seems asleep, but someone knows something. Do you think this is just intuition? This is the quiet purchase of information. The chart hasn't moved yet. News sites are silent, but something is happening behind the scenes. Funds are taking positions, slowly, silently. They're collecting thousands, tens of thousands of shares. Meanwhile, you're still sitting there waiting, asking, will there be a signal? But that signal already came. You just weren't looking in the right place. And Fintel.io is the place that shows you those silent moves. This isn't your typical investment screen. This is more like a corporate watchtower. Which major hedge funds are loading up on which stocks right now? Which executives are buying or selling millions worth of their own company's shares? Are institutional short positions rising or falling? Which sectors are moving quietly without being talked about? Fintel shows you the moves of those who stay silent. And the real money hides in the hands of those who don't speak. As a viewer, you'll feel something deep. I've always been late. And that's true. Because small investors usually buy after the news. But funds buy before the news even exists. Fintel breaks that cycle. It doesn't show you headlines. It shows you moves. Understanding why an executive made a massive sale is sometimes more valuable than any technical analysis. Because every insider sale whispers something about the future. Once you start using Fintel, investing is no longer a guessing game. It becomes a game of analysis. Use the Insider Trading Screener to track real-time executive activity. The short interest section alerts you to stocks vulnerable to manipulation. The Ownership Filings tab lets you monitor real-time fund positions. Now you hold a telescope in your hands, but this telescope doesn't focus on charts. It follows the direction of money. Fintel doesn't give you the view of a retail investor. It gives you the perspective of a game master. And remember, the ones who control the markets never speak, but they always leave a trace. And now, you can see that trace. There are trades where price movement hasn't even started, but the echo of that movement has already been heard in the options market. Yet most people don't look there, because options seem complicated, because they think that world belongs only to professionals. But the real information, the real intent, the real direction is hidden right there. Has this ever happened to you? You're watching a stock, it seems stable, and then suddenly it explodes. Everyone's surprised. No one knows why. But then you find out that same day someone bought millions worth of call options. In other words, someone knew ahead of time. So who are these people and how? The answer, unusual whales, is the system chasing that very question. But before I explain further, let me ask you something. Why would an investor pour millions into options? Why would they bet such large amounts on contracts that expire in a week? Is it luck? A gamble? Number. It's usually a signal, but this signal won't show up on TV. That signal only shines in the eyes of those who can read the data. Unusual whales is the tool that catches that shine. And this tool turns the market's quietest screams into visible data for you. What is Unusual Whales? It's a platform that scans all options trades happening on US stock markets in real time, categorizes them, and flags transactions of suspicious size. If someone suddenly buys $5 million worth of Tesla call options, or if thousands of put options are opened on Apple stock, or if multiple hedge funds take the same position on the same day, Unusual Whales detects it, but it doesn't stop there. It shows you who made the trade, how much they bought when the options expire, whether other whales are also making moves on the same stock. It visualizes everything for you. Once you have access to this tool, you stop focusing on price. You start focusing on intent. You no longer ask what happened. You ask what is about to happen. And that one question separates you from the rest, because now you've entered a realm where prices don't speak, but money whispers. And in that realm, you don't just read numbers. You read strategy. Follow the daily Unusual Flow page to track big transactions. Check the dark pool activity section to monitor hidden institutional trades. If you see repeated directional positions on the same stock, it means either a leak happened or a game is being set up. And now you're not outside the game. You're right in the center. The investment world is no longer just about reading headlines or watching charts. The winners are those who can listen to silence. Unusual Whales analyzes that silence for you, because whales never speak, but they leave a trail. And now you have a system to follow that trail. This system turns you from just another investor into a strategist.